welcome to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about Raceroom racing experience, and probably not what you're actually thinking about. Currently they actually have a promotion going on where all of the content in the game, or sim I should say, is available for everyone to play as much as you want for free over at least the next few days. It's already been going on since at least the 19th, so I don't know when this will all end. So I suggest you really jump on it now and do it while there is time. Especially if you guys have already been curious about trying a certain car out or a certain track and you just really haven't wanted to pay for it. Now is the time to go out and try all those out and get the seat time in the cars and on the tracks to see if you really want to invest the money in them. Because they're not extremely expensive in Raceroom, but it does add up over time buying car after car, especially if you buy a car to race in a certain class and you don't like it, so you end up buying another to try that out. And it can kind of just go down this rabbit hole with how many cars are in some of the classes in the sim. Now, this is also a great time for people who have never even tried out Raceroom before at all, because not only will you get the base free content, you'll get to see what Raceroom is in all of its glory with all of the cars, all of the tracks, because the base content's not bad, but you're missing such a huge amount of the content available in this sim and what really makes it such a detailed, great sim to play. So for you guys that haven't even tried it yet, now is the time to download it. It is free to download and play. There is quite a few cars for free and a decent amount of tracks, but right now you'll have access to all of them, and there is a ton of cars in this game and a lot of tracks too, and there's a lot of layouts for most of the track. Now, while I don't know if it actually is related to COVID-19 and all of the quarantines and stuff in effect, and that's why they did this for people, I feel like it probably is somehow at least related to that, just to give people something to take their minds off of it and have a little bit of fun while all this is going on, and while so many people are just stuck inside their homes basically. And for us sim racers, it is a really awesome chance to get out there, try cars we haven't tried yet, or at least try them in a different sim, see how maybe they are there if we didn't like them in one sim per se. Because cars in Raceroom are very realistic, so is iRacing, but they are a little flawed in every sim, and I feel like Raceroom does the best job of just capturing the overall feel of the cars while still keeping most of them drivable and not just trying to basically kill you the whole time, because some cars in some sims are just almost undrivable because they just don't have the grip they should for the kind of power they put down, and that's just not how race cars really are designed. Yeah, there's been periods of racing where we've had just tremendously overpowered cars, but with a skilled driver behind them, they were still drivable, whereas some of them in sim just seem almost undrivable, at least to a point of being consistent or fun to drive even. Anyways guys, we're going to jump on over to the rig. I'll give you guys 4 of my top recommendations for cars and tracks to try out right now. I'm not just going for cars, but more of the category or class of cars as a whole, because I haven't drove every car in every one of these categories, but they all seem really great from the experience I have had with them, and if you're into touring cars the way I am, they're really great picks to try out in Raceroom. I did not have any formula style or high downforce style cars in the sense of like open wheel downforce cars anyways in this list. I'm just not a huge fan of that style of racing. It's not really my thing, so they are not in this list. I hope you guys that are into that forgive me. There's plenty of really great options in Raceroom for that. So don't get discouraged by this list. Go ahead, check it out, see what's out there for you, because there's something for everyone in Raceroom. Alright guys, so going into this list, my first real recommendation for you guys to try out, if you haven't already, would be the 92 DTM cars. This is a really iconic set of cars. I'm not going to really go into history very much in this video because I don't want things to be too drug out. But this is when DTM really came into its own and really was taking off, and the cars were just really raw at this time. And for a track selection on this, everybody has Spa in basically every recommended list, but I really do enjoy Spa here in Raceroom. I feel like it's a little different than in a lot of other sims, and I really feel like it's a good fit for these style cars. And for the selection of the car I actually went with to drive, I will go ahead and show you guys the available options. We do have the Audi V8 DTM, the BMW M3 Sport Evo, the Ford Mustang GT, which is another one of my favorites in this class. The Mustang is just absolutely brutal. It's really raw, and you've got to really be on top of it and be ready to stop because it does not turn the best. It's not terrible, but it's not as great as the other cars as far as handling goes. Then we also have the absolutely legendary Mercedes 190 Evo 2, and also the Opel Omega 3000 Evo 500, which I have to say I've not drove at all yet. I'm not sure how it handles, but all the cars in this series seem to be really solid. Alright guys, now before we actually get on track and start doing any of these laps, I do want to say now we are not going to be finishing any of these races. I just wanted to do a quick setup as a race just because it's easy to knock it out that way really quick, do a lap or two and drop back out. This is more just so you guys can see how these different cars I recommend kind of race against the AI, how the car itself reacts, and just to give you guys a visual and audio experience of what they're like if you haven't had a chance to try them out yet, and if you didn't know that this little promo that Raceroom is doing was going on right now. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump in here guys, get on the track and get this thing started. I gotta say, I absolutely love the sound of these cars. They are all just so brutal. I'm not sure why it's letting me roll. Normally it'll actually hold you at the start here in Raceroom. That's a little strange. As you can see, this thing just launches extremely hard right off the line. It's a fairly stable car, but because it is kind of long and heavy, the rear end, the AI is getting a little bit frisky there. The rear end will swing out on you fairly simple. Oh, I was at red line there, didn't even realize it because the other AI cars are so loud in my headset right now. That's another thing, this car comes up on red line fairly quick, so you gotta stay on top of it. I'm sure you guys can see down there on my little gauge cluster I have up on the screen just how quickly we do run up on red line there at the end. It doesn't have like any kind of soft rev limit either, it just goes straight to the limiter. Getting pushed around a little bit, that Mustang back there. Oh, can I make it through? Come on, squeeze in there. I love how this video is not really supposed to be so much about the racing, but it's quickly turning into that. As you can see though, the AI are very competitive in these cars. They're not afraid to stick their nose in there and really try to just push you around the corners and make room if they need to. The audio experience in Raceroom has to be one of the greatest parts about this sim. It's just so on point in every way when it comes to race cars. They're just noisy, loud, raw. You hear all the little mechanical bits in the gearbox and differentials. You can hear when you get flat spots in the tires. It's very easy to tell when your scrubbing tires are locking up. And in these cars especially, they're very informative to what's happening as far as grip goes. Got a little distracted talking and let one of my fellow Audi drivers pass us up there. I know I haven't been talking much about the track so far, but there's not a lot to say, although I will say the details like the curbing here in Raceroom are just really bar none. The track feel is just absolutely phenomenal. The grip is where you would expect it to be. The curbs are nasty in places where they look like they're going to be. For the most part here, they're kind of mellow. There's some you really don't want to ride that get really sketchy and dangerous. But overall, like, visually, they really captured the look of the track from photos I've seen. It looks very used, weathered. It doesn't look too fresh or too shiny. A lot of games and sims just make the tracks look too fresh in my opinion, when really they've been raced on for a long time, which granted there is maintenance. They don't erase everything. That was honestly a little bit of a sketchy maneuver there, but somehow worked out for us. Push the AI out of my way a little bit. As you can see, they're really nice about giving you room, but not being too giving, I guess, would be the way to say it. They definitely will put up a fight. They won't just let you have your way, but at the same time, if you kind of just are barreling down on them, they will get out of your way and give you the right of way, so there's not really an accident. Saying that though, the AI do get in tussles of their own sometimes and do wreck each other and tend to cause some pretty nasty accidents. I will also say the higher you take the AI's difficulty rating, the more aggressive they become, to the point where it almost gets kind of irritating trying to race them in certain cars. Oh, I think we did some damage to the car. Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the damage gauge up on screen right now, so I can't see exactly what it is, but I'm assuming it's probably from redlining the engine so many times. It's a little hard to focus on shift points though and discuss all this stuff with you guys. Once again, the race isn't really the point of the video, it's more just about giving you guys a little taste of what these cars and what this sim's about. I know I haven't done a real proper video in Raceroom yet, but there are definitely going to be more to come. Now that I'm able to really experience the game with this new PC, I've really gained a new appreciation for it and really fallen in love with it. Anyways guys, we'll finish this last little bit of this lap out here. We'll jump out into one of the other cars on the list. And I'll give you guys a quick little run around of them. As you can see though, these cars do handle absolutely fantastic here in the 92 DTM series. Very quick, very raw, very brutal, especially the Mustang. The Mustang can definitely be a handful, but when you drive it right, honestly, it's kind of an amazing car, I gotta say. Okay guys, for our next car class we're going to be checking out, we are going to be going to Group 5. Another really raw, really just all about the power, the downforce, and grip style of racing. For this one guys, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone a little bit, and we're going to take a car I actually have not drove at all yet, the Corvette Grand Sport. I have drove this in Assetto Corsa on the Assetto Corsa Legends mod pack. I really like the car on that. It's really nice handling, oversteery obviously, but a really good balance to it, and you could, sorry, excuse me guys, but a really good balance to it, and it was definitely able to be got back under control as long as you didn't just stomp back on the throttle once it did step out on you. So I have drove the Nissan Skyline 2000 RS from this package, and I gotta say, compared to any other sim I've drove it in, this thing is an absolute beast in this game. It's a real handful to drive and control. Hoping the Corvette's a little more mild, which is kind of crazy to say being American V8 and all that torque it has. Now for this series of cars, we are gonna go to another track that's kind of in every game, but also another one that's one of my favorites, and I really feel like would fit this style of car very well because of the high speed, and that is of course Monza. Now guys, I do want to say right now, I did kind of go with Monza to give myself a little bit of a speed advantage because I know the Corvette's going to be a monster on the straightaways. I'm not sure how much it's going to really pay off because when it comes to braking and turning, if this thing's anything like the Assetto Corsa version, it just really doesn't. I mean, that's all there really is to it. But one thing this car does very well in every game, just listen to that sound. I don't know why it was stalled on me there. That was really weird. Apparently it was still registering I was in gear, but also stalled even though I had the clutch in. Gotta really baby this thing off the line just to keep from lighting those tires up. This thing just sounds so raw and brutal here in this game though. Sim, I should say. This is definitely not a game, and we're gonna brake real nice and early because once again, this thing does not brake. As you saw there, it took us literally that entire section just to get this thing to slow down. I actually tried to record this race once already, and I immediately plowed right into the back of that Porsche because I just could not slow down fast enough. Especially with how the AI do kind of brake a little early sometimes. Not that they're really slow through the corners, it just seems like they brake really early but still somehow manage to take the speed. Now don't really judge this car too poorly on my driving of it. Like I said, I've never drove this car in this game at all. And a very different monster compared to the Assetto Corsa Legends. A little bit understeery, at times. Very, very prone to not wanting to stop. Also prone to lighting the rear tires up if you're in too high in the RPM range when you get back on throttle coming out of corners. You definitely want to make sure you're lower in the rev so you can just use that torque instead of just disintegrating the tires. Oh, can I stop? Oh, just a little tap. That wasn't too bad. As you see though, that you would kind of expect this thing to drive this way, just trying to kill you the whole way with all of that horsepower and torque, and literally no brakes and very little handling to speak of. But as you can see, we're on the straightaway just gaining on them like it's nothing, even though they just destroyed us in the corners. Very different style of racing driving this car, that's for sure. You just gotta kind of rein yourself in all the way through the corners and then just let all that power out once you hit the straight and use that to take everyone back over that just passed you coming through the corner. Just walking away from them like they're nothing. That's just absolutely insane. But once again, we gotta stop a mile before we get to the turn. We'll lose all that time we made up. Once again though, this is kind of specific to this car. The other cars handle fairly well. Skyline does attempt to kind of murder you a little bit here and there just because it has so much power, and the boost comes on just all at once right at the top of the RPM range and can really catch you off guard if you're not ready for it. Just standing on the brakes and still cannot lock them up. Now you know you have no brakes when you cannot lock them up in a race car whatsoever. Yeah, that was like full brake pressure. I am literally standing on it, trying to get it to go further, and it's not giving me anything. Oh, a little lock up there, but I think that was more related to speed. I think I actually understeered a little bit, and it caused me to be able to get enough brake pressure up front to actually lock the tires. I could play around with the brake bias a little bit to see if that actually helps or cause any. I managed to actually stay off of them through all that. So you can see we just charge on them like it's nothing and just walk away from them. I'm not even hitting rev limiter either. I'm actually like shifting a decent amount early. I probably got about another 500 RPM to go. Just absolutely deafening on the downshifts. I have my headset pretty well cranked. I hope I don't sound like I'm screaming to you guys, but my headphone amplifier on this motherboard is actually incredibly good. So I have extremely high quality audio through this headset now, and I definitely cannot hear myself over this Corvette at all. So I could be a little loud. If I am, I apologize for that. Just listen to that snap on the downshift. That is just absolutely gnarly sounding. And just rolling through the corner, you can just hear that big block loping. You can see the car just squat as soon as you get on the throttle, and that rear end grips really hard. It causes the front start trying to understeer on us. The front end just does not have enough grip as it starts to lift on us. Oh, we're just going through the chicane. There is no way. Well, I'm not going to be serving that penalty, so whatever. We'll give him position back, though. You can see what I mean. These Porsches especially just have phenomenal brakes compared to us, and I will literally just drive through them in this monster American V8 trying to stop. And just walk away from him again. I gotta say, the force feedback is really nice on this car as well. A little soft, but you'd kind of expect it. Being this thing is on pretty tall racing slicks, it's got a nice sidewall to it, so definitely gonna absorb a lot of that. Oh wow, that rev limiter sounded nasty. And between that and the really soft suspension setups these cars ran, you would expect the steering to be a little bit dampened feeling. See, as soon as I get a little too much throttle, that's when it starts that understeering as it's bucking down in the rear and lifting the front end a little bit and taking some of the weight off the tires and getting rid of that grip we had. As long as you're off throttle, this thing has a massive amount of grip up front. I really was not intending on finishing that race. It didn't even take us quite 6 minutes there. We did not win either because I never served my drive-through penalty, but whatever. Amazing handling car though, just really fun series of cars to race and really exhilarating between the sounds and just how raw they are and how sketchy they can be going into corners, knowing how fast you're going and how hard it might be to stop. Hey, number 69. I did not notice that until just now. They make for a really interesting car to drive. Now guys, we will go to something a little bit more modern for this one. We are going to be going with the World Touring Cars 2019 lineup, and for this one I'm going to go something kind of cliche, I guess you could say. It's not really cliche, I don't know what the right word would be here, I can't think of it. We're gonna go with the Honda Civic TCR just because I'm really interested in how this thing drives. I have not drove any of the cars in this class, but I've heard they're really great, and there's a lot of really good series going on in leagues that involve these cars for Raceroom right now from what I've seen. So they're definitely worth checking out, and this is a really good chance, like I said in the intro, to try them out while they're free to see if you actually want to invest in buying one of these cars to try out. And the benefit is right now you can drive all of the cars in the pack, figure out which one you actually want, so you don't need to buy multiple, and actually just pick the one you really like racing right off the bat. Now for this race we will be going to a track I have never driven on. I do not know this track whatsoever. It is the New Storpering, something along those lines. So it will be my first time out, so once again, don't be too harsh on me or the car because I have no experience with the car or the track. This is all going to be new to me, so we're going to be experiencing this together for the first time. Now, before we jump in and get this race started, some of you guys might be wondering how I can recommend this car and track if I've never drove either one of them. And I'm doing that based off of recommendations I've had from other people that do play Raceroom quite a bit and have drove on this track or with these cars quite a bit. And I'm just kind of mashing them together for the sake of this video to try them out all at once. And the track layout seems like it would be a great fit for this style of car. I'm not saying they are good to drive on together or that you should just jump right in and buy them, or take my experience in this video as you should buy either one, but I am basing it off of people that I respect's opinion on the subject and that do have a little bit more experience with some of the lesser known tracks in the game. Because there are like groups of tracks that are really raced the majority of the time online, and the others are kind of just set by the wayside and forgotten, it seems like. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting on my paddle shifter extension, so we do have to deal with kind of reaching around to grab my paddles to drive these cars, so it will make things a little bit interesting. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely does present its own little challenge. Had to dive a little bit onto the grass there, but I managed to avoid all the contact. Oh, I did not realize we were already in first. That was my bad. Once again, lack of experience with the cars and the track at play there. Plus, I'm trying to kind of figure out what the AI was doing there. They get really bunched up and like slow to start tracks like this. Usually, if you put them on a track where there's like a nice open straight towards the beginning where they can spread out a little bit more and kind of fight for position before getting to the corners, ho, that was close. Usually they tend to not bunch up quite as bad and kind of cause these traffic jams at every single corner. Now as far as the car goes, I've got to say this thing actually is really great, and I was wrong. I have drove this track once before. It was in the Porsche Cayman Club Sport, I believe is the name of the series of car here in Raceroom. So the AI is getting a little frisky there. All the way back into last place now. That's okay though. Once again, this is kind of just get a feel for the cars, show you guys how they drive, give you guys a little bit of direction having all these cars kind of just thrown at us here. This is a really great track though, I gotta say. It does have some very tricky sections, like right here you gotta kind of ease up before you get into this corner so you can get back on throttle coming out. But I'm still trying to like learn it. It was definitely much different in the Porsche. But it's got a lot of really tricky kind of blind corners that are over hills and crests. Definitely not a high-speed track by any stretch of the imagination, although it does have a couple nice little straights. Not really, can't really call them straights, I guess. I guess just about everything on this track has a curve to it. But a couple nice little sections where you can kind of stretch the car out a little bit and get some speed. This corner is very tricky in anything rear-wheel drive, but especially the Porsche. I spun so many times there. As you can see, the track is just all over the place for that section as far as the pitch of the corners and the elevation changes, so it's really unsettling to the car, especially if you're being kind of jumpy on the brakes or gas, or you're just kind of unsure about your steering inputs. It's really easy to lose the car coming through that section. I gotta say, this Civic drives amazingly well. I've not noticed much of any understeer, which a majority of the modern front-wheel drive touring cars, as far as I know, it's not really so much a thing anymore with how far they've came with the engineering and also just the tuning of the vehicles. I also really want to try the Golf from this pack. I really enjoy that car in a lot of games. I really want to see what the touring car version of it is like. Oh, a little bit of a traffic jam there. Luckily, we actually had good enough brakes to manage to get a stop. As you can see, though, this is a fairly short track. You can put a lot of laps in and not a whole lot of time. We're already on the last lap here. Didn't have a great race, but the car survived. We made it through in one piece. Nothing too dramatic happened to us. Once again, really close racing. The cars are all really evenly matched, so it's going to be really tight, action-packed racing, especially on a short track like this where there's not really room for anyone to run away from each other. Definitely one I would recommend picking up, because like I said, there's a lot of series. They also have championships with payouts for winning them with these cars that happen, or at least they have. I don't know if there's any currently going on or they're planning more, but because these are just about the most modern touring cars, at least in the game right now, they do tend to do a little bit more with these cars than some of the other classes. So my last official recommendation for this list, I will do just a couple of like honorable mentions as well as we talk about this, is going to be the Carrera Cup Classic. This car is absolutely amazing to drive. The level of detail to the feedback with the suspension and the steering is one of the best in my opinion of any of the cars I've drove so far, especially on the track Nordschleife. It is so alive, it almost feels like it's just built to drive there, and it's just an absolute amazing experience in sim racing to take out and just hammer around the Nordschleife in this thing, or on any track. We won't be driving on Nordschleife in this video, and for this race we will be taking the Porsche to Gallerson Arena. I have done a tiny bit of racing here, not very much at all. As you can see, it is a short layout track. They have an even shorter version, in fact, that is extremely small. But it's a really technical track, even though it is small, and you can have some really fun, once again, tight, close racing on this track. So besides just the quality of force feedback with this car and how well it drives, the real reason I would recommend this thing is just because they nail everything about the vintage air-cooled 911 driving experience. Just the sound, the rawness of the feeling through the wheel, the horrible brakes, because this is an older car obviously, but just the precise driver input and feel this car should have. But they also didn't make the car too overactive in the rear, which I feel like a lot of sims actually are just a little crazy about when it comes to mid-engine or rear engine Porsches. Yes, they will swing around in the rear, but one that's properly set up to take out on a racetrack is not going to be nearly as overactive as one that is on old street tires or is just not set up to go around the track at all. They will still be a little bit understeery on throttle just because they lose a lot of grip in the front on throttle. All the weight's in the rear, and you add to that the fact, downshifted, really didn't need to. I was literally like riding the limiter there. Also lost train of thought in what I was talking about there. Oh yeah, about how just overactive the cars are in the rear and how hard they are to just be able to recover and drive well. Most games just are a little bit on the extreme side. Usually most Porsches, especially modern ones, are just extremely planted in the corners, and unless you're just being really foolish with the throttle, it's honestly kind of hard to get the rear to step out unless you just really chuck the weight of the car in. As you can see though, even with a little bit of trail braking, the rear of the car stays fairly well planted. There's a ton of grip back there, and it's not really trying to swing around and kill me like it will in a lot of other settings. You can see just how well the car reacts to the bumps too. The suspension on this thing is amazing, which is why I said this car does so well around Nordschleife. It's really just kind of almost built for the way the car handles and how well it can take the bumps. Most of the curbs there are just really no problem. Dang it, I should have stayed in second. I did it again for this car. That's what I was talking about with the gearing. You gotta really pay attention to where the car is at in the RPM range. So you can see the car did get a little skittish there in the rear, but it never pendulum around on me, and it never just kept going. It eventually came back once I let out of it and once it gained enough control back. But yeah, Nordschleife, this thing is just amazing because you can be so aggressive with all the curves, and the hills and the uneven surface don't really pose a huge problem like they do to a lot of cars. Now in this corner, I'm going to purposely get on throttle early, and you can see what I mean about the on throttle understeer. Even then though, as soon as you back off a little bit, the car will come back and catch itself. The same goes for the rear. It's got a very good balance to it, and what you would expect for a car that is actually tuned for a racing circuit and not just a street trim vintage Porsche. I know I'm kind of just going on and on about that, but I'm really glad did it again. They did that for this sim because that's not how these cars really drive, especially not with a good suspension setup and really nice tires on them. You should be able to kind of just slide them out a little bit like I did there around the corners. Be able to keep the car under control though, kind of balance it with the brake, and make your way through the corner with a decent amount of speed without too much fumbling around the wheel acting like a madman. Anyways guys, that is the last car we're going to be going over in this video. For other recommendations, I suggest you guys go out and try any of the DTM series cars, the more modern ones, not the 92 ones. They're all really, really great. Obviously any of the GT class cars are all really great as well. If you're into Formula, all of the cars from what I've drove them and what people have told me all seem to be really good as well. Really anything in this game is going to be a great option, but I just wanted to give you guys my top 4 tracks and cars I suggest you try out while you have the chance if you don't already have them and haven't tried them out. Anyways guys, if you did make it this far through the video, I really appreciate you guys taking out the time to watch it. I hope you guys get the chance to check all this out. If you did enjoy the video, please consider hitting that like button down below, commenting and subscribing. It really helps the channel out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.